Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Okay. Welcome to Modality Monday. Today we're going to talk about exercise bands. Now, if you remember, I don't know, a while ago, I talked about mini bands. This week, since I got this fabulous gift from my mom, thank you, Mom, for my birthday, I'm going to talk about bands with handles. There's one last kind of band. It's the long bands without handles. I don't have any of those yet, so I'm not going to talk about them yet. Soon, very soon. All right, bands with handles. Now, bands with handles take different shapes and sizes. These are a nicer brand. Fitness gear. I got these from Dick's Sporting Goods. Just throwing that out there. It's my unofficial recommendation. All right. I had previously bought bands, probably from Amazon. They were just cheap bands with handles, and they were working okay for a while. And then I moved, and they were in storage, and they got really brittle. And then one day, dude, pull down, bing, 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 like all the handles snapped off. These are a little nicer. One in that there's some reinforcement. I don't know if you can see that. So there's like a little gasket here, and then it's larger to make it much more difficult for them to fall apart like mine did. Also, this brand has carabiners on the end so that you can swap the handles in and out and add or change resistance as you need it. So that's sort of nice about these. It does make them a little heavier, and then they're sort of noisy. But why do you want to use bands in the first place? So when you are lifting weights, you are lifting weights against gravity. And as you're doing that, you are limited in what muscles can move against gravity. So for example, I can do a bicep curl and move the weight up against gravity. But if I want to do a tricep extension to work my triceps, I have to sort of flip myself around so that the weight is always moving up against gravity. When you're using bands, you don't have to worry about that. So certain moves, for example, like a lat pull down, very difficult to try to simulate that movement with a weight. So trying to simulate a pull up with a weight is nearly impossible, whereas here you can just set up your band so that you're pulling down, similar to doing a pull up, which we will do today. Not a pull up, the lat pull down. So bands allow you to do different things that dumbbells don't necessarily allow you to do, or allow you to do easily. Also, they're lightweight and portable, so instead of trying to pack a bunch of dumbbells into your suitcase whenever you get to travel again, you just pack a set of bands, and it's like a handful of pounds as opposed to like just carrying dead weight. Fun fact, when I used to travel to Hawaii for work, I actually packed dumbbells in my suitcase. It was a dumb move, but we didn't have a gym. Okay. What else? So they're lightweight and portable. Like I said, these are a little heavier because they're a lot sturdier. They're relatively inexpensive. There are bands. The whole set was not super cheap. But you can buy, if you buy the cheap stuff, you can get it for like 30 or 40 bucks for a whole set. So it easily gets to the range of resistance. Another thing you should know about bands is that, similarly to the mini bands I talked about, the force that is applied increases as you extend past its, quote, rest length. So this is the rest length of this band, right? So if I just let it sit here, that's what it's going to be. But as I pull on it, the force increases the more I pull on it. So talk about Hooke's law, F equals minus kx. So it resists the force you're pulling on it, and it increases the longer the length gets. And that's also different from gravity, because for gravity is always just pulling down, so the force changes. I'm going to talk a lot more about this on Friday, Physics and Fitness Fridays, so stay tuned for that. These kind of bands are really good for sagittal plane movements. So basically, extending in this direction, squatting up and down. They're not quite as easy to set up for like frontal plane movements, so like lateral movements side to side. Tomorrow in Technical Tuesdays, I'm going to talk more about that because I'm going to compare the long bands with the mini bands and talk about which are best suited for what exercises. And then also with the bands, just something that you want to keep in mind are anchor points. Okay, so I have a bunch of anchor points already set up. So for some, like I have with the weight rack, you can basically just, if you have something like a vertical supporting rod that's stable, you can just wrap it around and do that. Another thing that you can do is you can use the carabiners to hook it onto itself. Another thing that I'm going to show is basically taking the handles and then looping them through to wrap it around and make it tight around an anchor point. But you really, to get the most use out of your bands, you want to have multiple anchor points that you can use. So like a low anchor point, the red band is set up at a mid anchor point, and then I have the two up there at a high anchor point. And when you do high anchor points, you're going to need something like this. So this is just a strap or a loop, and it has a thick end. And basically what you do is you slide that into the door so that this sticks on the other side, and then you pull the door shut and it locks into place. Now notice that that door handle is pulling towards me, so the door opens away from me. And that's a good thing, because when you have a door, when you're using a door for your anchor point, you don't want the door to open towards you, because you think about it, if you're pulling on the bands and the force is too great and that door is not secure, you could open the door and everything goes flying. So it's best to set up your high anchor point on a door that opens away from you. And if you can't do that, you just move the anchor point closer towards the hinge, and that will make it harder for the door to open on you. Safety first. Okay. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do a set of 10 moves, and I'm going to be moving all over the place, okay? I allowed myself 15 seconds in between each move to try to handle all of the swapping of handles. This is more like the disadvantage for this particular set of bands, that you're constantly changing your anchor points and changing your handles or moving your bands around. So it can get a little clumsy. I did a run through this before and it was a disaster. So I'm going to try it again, trying to make it a little more smooth. And here I notice that I have two bands set up in a high anchor point. I'm not going to use both of them at once. You could with this set, which is actually sort of cool if you wanted to increase your resistance that way. But I'm going to lock into the different resistances for different moves. And like I said, I already have my anchor points set up. So if you're doing this at home, you're going to want to have a low anchor point, a mid anchor point, and then a high anchor point. And you'll probably want two different resistances in there. And if you don't, just watch the moves, and then you can figure out how to incorporate them into your own workout and make the transitions a little more smooth. Mine are going to be a little clunky, but we're going to work out. And we're going to have some moves on the floor and some standing moves. All right, so in 10 seconds, I'm going to get started, and I have some lightweight bands because I'm going to be doing a curl overhead press. So let's get started. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. So notice I'm going to curl and overhead press, flipping the grip. I have one foot standing on the band so that I sort of have an anchor point, created an anchor point at my foot. Okay. If I wanted to increase the resistance with the same band, one of the ways I could do that is by making a little loop and then stepping on that loop. I don't need that much resistance. These are some heavy bands, okay? So sometimes it helps to have a stagger stance or a slight stagger stance just to have increased stability. Or I could have both feet standing up. Again, increasing the intensity slightly. In 8 seconds, I'm going to lie down and I'm going to show you a move that's similar to a move later, just giving you a modification on it. Here we go. So I'm going to lie down, hands near my shoulders, okay, and I'm just going to press out. Okay, so this is like doing a leg press machine, but with bands. So this resistance is not the heaviest. But just showing the movement. So this is going to be a modification for move 8, which is just doing squats. So why would you want to do leg presses this way? Well, maybe your feet need a break. Maybe you have issues that you gotta stay off your feet. And so this is a way of, simulating that leg and knee extension movement. Notice that it came off my feet. So I guess that's one of the challenges, is making sure that you keep your anchor point stable. This one's slightly unstable because it could roll off. So you gotta be careful about that. But this is nice because I can get a good range of motion here. Really get those knees in, which may be more difficult in the squat because you may start to bend over or put more pressure on your back. This really takes pressure off your back and pressure off your feet. Got 5 more seconds. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna swap the handles, and I have a set of bands at a low anchor point down here. And now I'm just going to do a seated row. And here we go. Apparently I'm not keeping track of something. So, just pulling my elbows back towards my sides. If you want to increase the resistance, move farther away from the anchor point. So nice. Got 10 more seconds here. I'm supposed to be doing a minute each, and I think maybe I'm on the wrong interval. 2, 1, here we go. We're going to swap out. And we're going to go to our high anchor point. We're going to do some lat pull downs. Here we go. So notice that my back and my arms are all in the same plane. So this is trying to simulate sort of a pull-up movement. So this is a great way to get into building on pull-ups. I'm using a fairly heavy band, holding at the bottom, feeling that activation in the lats. So again, this is pretty difficult. It's pretty difficult to activate the lats. I mean, you can't really do it in a dumbbell with this particular motion. There's a different thing that you can do to work the lats. But anyway, keep working on this. Head and neutral spine. I'm not sure. Oh, here we go. Gonna let those out. So I'm allowing myself 15 seconds to change, and it's hard. All right, so I'm gonna do a standing tricep extension. So notice I'm just standing on it, bent over, head in neutral spine. I tried to do this in a kneeling pose earlier. It was tough. So notice keeping my upper elbow or upper arms still. So one of the challenges with setting up your bands is that, I have to move this far before I actually start to feel tension in the band. So sometimes you just gotta work with adjusting the tension so you have tension along more of the range of motion. If the bands are too long or too short, it can make it very challenging that way. So usually it's good to try out the moves before you start setting up a whole circuit, just to make sure that you have, tension along the range of motion as you want it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do an ab rotation. I'm going to lock in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hook this on itself. Not enough time. And I'm going to hook one thing in. And so now, just doing a standing ab rotation. The headless trainer, let's back it up a little bit. So keeping my arms straight. feet facing forward. Just doing a twist. I can do switch sides. You can use this for some transverse plane motion, doing some twists. In 13 seconds, I'm going to unloop this, hook in the other handle. I'm going to do some pullovers. 3, 2, 1. I'm going to unhook here. Add this other handle. I'm going to lay down, body weight from the anchor point, and now we're going to do pullovers. Again, if you want more range of motion, I could shift my body down, or I want more tension, I'm sorry. Keeping my shoulders down and back. I'm going to put my feet up to get my back into the ground. Thirty seconds. Oh, such nice. Nice workout. Just get that back into the ground. And it's like, just relax, take a break. No shoulders down and back, don't let them scrunch near your ears. All right. Now I'm going to unhook. I'm going to try. Almost that time. See, even with this, it can be tough. Okay. So I can do a squat. And it would be better if I have my arms, hands near my shoulders. I have both feet stepping on the band. I could swap it just to one if I wanted. I'm just doing squats. So this is similar to doing a leg extension or a leg press. Okay, you're working the same muscles, completely different setup. This is going to be a little more intense on the back. So having good form to protect your back is key here. We could always do the leg press lying down if you want to switch it up. 4 seconds. I'm going to go back to my high anchor point. Here we go. So I'm going to do lighter weight. Standing away. So last time I was standing away from the anchor point, and now, or I was standing towards the anchor point, now I'm standing away. So doing a chest press. So this is similar to doing like a push-up or a bench press. Just pushing away from you. For the last move, I'm going to use a low anchor point. I'm going to show you a different way to wrap the handles. So the first one, I had the luxury of taking the carabiner and just snapping it around the band. This last band, it's too thick to really do that. I'm going to squat the legs, just because. So for the last move, I'm actually going to interlock the handles with each other, and then I'll just use the handles as toe rest. So in 3 seconds, get ready for that. 2, 1. All right. Unlock. Unlock. See, they get noisy. So I'm just going to thread this through. And here we go, last move. I'm going to put my toe in here. I'm just going to do an abduction. Notice this is sort of awkward. So what's really nice is if you can get, they make different like ankle straps. So think of it as like an ankle weight without the weight. And so basically, you can put your carabiner, the carabiner onto that. And I'll just swap this around. Last 30 seconds, we'll be looking at my booty. And anyway, so this is a little awkward, but if you're creative and patient, you can do abduction, or you can do adduction, which is basically just turning it around and crossing your legs over, and that's it. So, lots of different moves. The only thing that limits you is really your creativity and how much you want to mess around with it. So as you can see, there was a lot of running back and forth, switching things, changing hooks. The benefit is that you can do all these different movements if you just do all those things. But it can be a little awkward and clumsy. So it can be hard, as you saw, doing a 10-move circuit was a little challenging, but it can be done. But I challenge you to take some of these movements and work with them into a circuit that has a nice flow for you. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this talk about long handle bands. Again, tomorrow for Technical Tuesdays, I'm going to compare the long handle bands with the mini bands and compare and contrast them for different moves. And yeah, more bands all week. So take care, have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye.